Hey guys, Samura Jones here, your emotional restoration coach. You are listening to the Shattered Whole podcast where we feel, talk, and heal through the process. By doing what? By acknowledging the hurt, claiming our healing, and living as a new creation. Now, you may say, that is a mouthful. How do I do that? And that's what this dialogue is all about. And why do I use the word dialogue? Because this is a conversation. And you're like, Samura, how can it be a conversation if it's a podcast? Well, guess what? As you are listening through, you are going to have thoughts, you are going to have opinions. And what you'll do is you'll comment on platforms that you see it on. You will send in emails. You will do all of the things. And then we will join in this dialogue together. Hey, you never know. I may bring you on and we will talk about what we are processing together, because healing is a partnership. Healing is not something that you can do or should do alone, and that's what I am here for. I am so excited to be able to be on this journey with you. I'm grateful that God has called me to it, and I'm so grateful that you have pressed play to listen and then participate. And that is really just an honor to be a part of. And so I wanted to take the opportunity in our first episode, one, for you to get a moment to get to know me. And then on top of it, I wanted to explain what acknowledging our hurt even looks like. Like what is that process that we go through? So, one, a little bit about me. Like I said, I am your emotional restoration coach, and which means that I've needed some emotional restoration, right? It means that I have gone through some things in my life. So I have had some traumatic experiences. And before I even start and go into those, I do recognize that some of the things that I have been through are can be triggering, re-traumatizing, and hard sometimes for people to hear. So first and foremost, as I share my testimony and experiences with you on this podcast and podcast episodes to come, I want you to first and foremost know that I'm never seeking to remind you of or reinvigorate your hurt. I'm looking to acknowledge it. I'm looking to walk through you as you are healing through it through practical practices, and then being a part of the journey where you're now living under these new habits, right? So some of the things that I have gone through as a child, was unfortunately I was molested by, my father. I went from that into foster care, where I was severely abused, where I was starved, where I was beaten, where I was drowned almost. Obviously, I'm still alive. So I thank God for that. I've endured miscarriage, abortion, making terrible self-inflicting life decisions that took me down a very complicated and a very tumultuous path. And then I get to talk about the things that has happened after, because through every battle that I've experienced, there's been a victory. And so I want to talk to you about how I got through those victories, some things that I've learned along the way, and then how you can partake in them as well. So my experience will become the stepping stones, if you will, for you, and the tools that God has instructed me to give and pass on to you. So the first person who needed emotional restoration was me. So this is a we thing. And I'm just here. I'm here to hear you on a deeper level. So let's talk about acknowledging the hurt. Does acknowledging the hurt just mean something as simple as just saying the pain that I went through. Well, I acknowledged it. My feelings are hurt. That's not quite enough to start to deal with what is actually occurring and happening. And this is how you know that it's not being acknowledged in the way that it should. You know that it's not being acknowledged in the way that it should because it keeps recycling itself in your life. Like it, and you can't quite put your finger completely on it. You're trying to figure out why this thing keeps happening, or why I keep feeling this way, or why when someone says something or do something, or I have these relationships that I'm in, this same emotion keeps popping up on me, and I don't know why. I can't shake it and I can't get rid of it. You do not get through things by ignoring them. You do not get through things by just functioning. And I have been guilty of that time and time again, where I have felt that if I could function, then I was over it. If I moved on, then that was it. And then what happens is it, without permission, comes back and pops up in your life in ways and in spaces it never was welcomed. It never was welcome, and it ends up robbing you in a lot of instances. So I want to talk about this quote real quick that I heard, and I think that it allows us to tell the truth. It says, it's by someone who's unknown, but it says, the prettiest smile hides the deepest secrets. The prettiest eyes have cried the most tears, and the kindest hearts have felt the most pain. And that includes if you're pretty, if you're handsome, or however you identify yourself in beauty standard, no matter what you have experienced, unfortunately, if you are breathing, you have had an encounter with pain, you have had an encounter with hurt, whether it was external or internal. So we'll go through that. So the one thing that I wanted to start with was what happened. Naming your pain. And I listen to other podcasts, and I listen to other people, so many people that I follow. And one of the people that I love is Miss Kev on Stage. And she had posted something that I had not been familiar with previously, which was an emotional wheel. And what I recognized was, as I was going through my studies, as I was going through my own, emotional journey, it was, did I have the vocabulary to express what it is that I was feeling and what I was dealing with? And how could I help others identify the language? Because sometimes you're stuck in a place where you can't acknowledge it because you don't have a name for it, right? How can I get through something where I feel like it's hiding from me? Like, I feel like knowing what it actually is hiding from me, yet it always has access to keep hurting me. So one of the things that I equip people with is an emotional vocabulary. So are you disgusted by what occurred? Are you angry by what happened? And sometimes angry is not enough, right? Are you displeased? Are you disappointed? Are you ashamed? Do you feel guilty? Like, what is the language that comes along with identifying what that is? Because when you can name the hurt, it gives you a better ability to equip yourself to start dealing with that hurt. I was about to say amen. I'm churchy. Just so you just so you know that I love the Lord. But also, what was the impact, right? Because I can say that as a child, unfortunately, I was molested. Like I said earlier, I was molested by my father, and that was what happened. What happened was my father molested me, and what that hurt did was cause me to feel unsafe. It caused me to feel fearful. It caused me to feel betrayed. It caused confusion because the person that I thought I knew and the person that I thought I was safe with, I know now had an identity to me in my eyes where this person was now who was willing and able to hurt me when previously I only saw them as love and safety. So once I was able to identify that and see it that way, I needed to think about the impact. The impact went into me going into being taken from my home, which is changing the environment that I was in. Changing the environment that I was in and putting me into a place of where strangers were, people I had never known, people who were telling me that I would be safe now, and yet not knowing how I would be. So now I'm confused. I'm isolated. I'm still scared. I'm still fearful. I don't know where I'm going, what I would be. And then I got put into a situation, an environment where I wasn't safe. It was just a different kind of abuse. So now I'm like, okay. And at the time, I'm 7, right? I'm 7 years old. I'm 6 years old when it first started, but I'm 7 when I'm getting moved around. And the journey begins of where these feelings are repeatedly moving in different aspects of my life. And the impact of them was how I now viewed people, how I viewed men, how I viewed my mother relationships, right? Because remember, your parental relationships is the first relationship that you have with where you learn love, where you learn communication, where you learn how you function with other people. And we had a very rocky start that impacted the way I had relationships with other people, including myself. And the next part of acknowledging that was like I said, the experience and the observation. Like, what did I see? So you're acknowledging the hurt by naming it. You're observing it. I actually did it backwards. Like, you're observing the experience that you're going through, and then you're recognizing the impact of it. That's just the acknowledgement of it. We're not even talking about dealing with it. We're just talking about acknowledging it. And sometimes that step alone is heavy. Sometimes that space alone can be very heavy. It can feel like I don't even know if I can do that, right? And I want to state that I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a mental health professional. I do have my certification in emotional intelligence, and I've been certified in advanced leadership, and and all of those things. And my life lessons have also allowed me to gain these tools to walk you through the process. And just so you know, I also utilize the tools of mental health professionals to help gird me and guide me along this path, as well as my spiritual foundation, which I have. So using those elements that I've really gained later on help me to articulate and go through and grow through and heal through these processes. So I don't want you to be scared. I don't want you to be discouraged, or I don't want you to run away from the acknowledgement of acknowledging your hurt. I want you to make a decision for yourself. You are so uniquely made and so important and so necessary. You are not here by accident. And it doesn't mean that because you're here, that your life should be only hurt, only pain, repeated lessons, and it feels like you're stuck and there's no way out. That's not true. If you're willing to go through this process of acknowledging your hurt and what that means in steps, then you can process your way to your next step, which is claiming your healing. But before we can even get to that part, which is the next episode, we have to go through the process of acknowledging the hurt, accepting that it happened. I'm sorry that it happened. I'm sorry that that person hurt you. I'm sorry that that situation hurt you. I'm sorry that you started to make decisions like I did that started to inflict internal hurt. Because what happens to us externally, it's not really until we start believing what was said or what was done to us that internally, that it really has this long lasting damage. Those thoughts that then come to us when we are experiencing this hurt, when we start to accept that I'm not good enough, or that maybe I deserved it, or maybe or what I now do because of it, the impact, right? If I'm start having these bad relationships where at least someone loves me more than X, Y, and Z, we start to settle in these insecurities. We start to settle in these negative behaviors. We start to settle in the less of ourselves because we're not acknowledging the hurt in a way that is getting us through it. We're acknowledging the hurt in acceptance of the consequences instead of the deliverance from it. So I want you to walk through this journey with me. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. I'm looking forward to having deeper conversations with you. And here's what I want you to know. I want you to know that there's an after. I want you to know that this is not something that has to lay claim over your life for the rest of your life. I want you to know that with what I've even experienced, just speaking on one aspect with my dad, that I was able to forgive him, that I was able to be who God needed me to be for him. And when he did, and unfortunately my dad passed at the end of last year. When he passed, he had gave his life to Christ. Wait, I just want to make sure that we're here. At the end of that, he gave his life to Christ. And what he did with his life after that is of his own accord. And we'll break down those processes and those things soon. But I was able to see God do a full transformation, not just in my father, but in me as well. So I want you to have hope. I want you to know that you may have started or you may have be in a position where you're shattered, but you can be whole again. So thank you so much for listening. Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure that you are following me on all of the platforms. But most importantly, I just want you to know that I see you, that I'm listening, that I love you, and God bless you.